in our school and they lack one credit and they're 23, we're going to let them come even if we get no money for them, because we see how important that is. And I think that's a function of the governing council, is to try and help that overall. You know, we stay out of Margarita's way on her everyday stuff. She brings us the information. We don't get involved in the things we're not supposed to, but there are some things that I think we can fight really hard for. And I'm hoping that I'm hoping we can expand that in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was one of my most early impactful moments when I heard that gentleman speak, and the story that he had, and really affirmed for me why I'm doing, hopefully what I'm doing. And I'm hoping for 35.
That would be great. We would take it.
You know, I understand maybe an age cap,
Right.
you know, if you have to, but I think 35 is probably, I don't think I saw as many tears shed in the roundhouse the day after that vote. And it's like, why are we having this buyer's remorse
Right.
now when those stories were told and you chose to ignore those stories and make that vote? And now it's like, oh, you know, I was really sad yesterday. It's like, then why did you vote that way? So it was, I mean, this school serves a community, but that community of folks who were just completely dismissed with that vote. And we were talking before, it's going to take a long time, even if it changes, to try to get those folks to come back. And it's going to take a village to do that, but it serves this community, you know, so much that it really is important. And it's a shame that it's probably not going to be until the next 60 day that conversation can take place, because we all know, anyone who's involved in this knows that as good as the GED programs may be, many of those adults don't have the skills to survive in a GED program. And that's what people don't want to see. Or, oh, no, we'll do it at the community college. And we all know that it's tough to get those adults back. And when they step on the community college campus, they don't always feel like they really belong there. And they just don't, they don't stay. So it's hopefully something that we can work on. You know, I hope the state moving towards focusing more on the short cycle assessments will help schools show their growth and success. But also we're really excited because we know that a test score doesn't always it doesn't reflect the success and growth of students, so that the work that we're doing and with all of the work that you've done, we hope that you're part of that conversation to look at the alternate assessments and be able to show that, because I think that's going to be critical, especially for schools like yours, to be able to show that. You know, most everyone did a happy dance when Park went away, but we all knew that there were going to be schools that it was not going to be such a happy moment for. And for all schools, we saw that there was this step back with that first year. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, most standardized tests are not culturally responsive. So for a school like yours, that truly does, it's shown in that. So hopefully we're on a better path and we'll get there. But the work that you've done and continue to do certainly is recognized and has to be applauded. So thank you. So commissioners, I don't see any other hands. Are we ready for a motion? Okay. So I am going to move that the Public Education Commission renew the contract for New America Las Cruces for a period of 5 years from July 1st, 2022 to July 30, 2027.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gibson, a second by Commissioner Chavez. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands, Commissioner Burt, roll please.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Voigt,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt, yes. And Commissioner Taylor, are you there? I just see his name on the screen, so I want to
see his
ask.
Name on the screen.
Okay, he is not present, so that passes unanimously 8-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we'd like to invite any of you, if you ever want to come and see our school, please do. We're very proud of it. We're very proud of the facility. And Chair Gibson's been there many times before. It was an old furniture store that was empty for years. And you wouldn't even know that now. It's beautiful. And even after 10 years, it's still beautiful. And we'd love to have any of you anytime come and visit. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, so do we want to take a 10-minute break in between? Okay, thanks.
Are you? Oh, you know. Don't tell me nothing. I'm
So thank you all once again. We are on to our second school, which is Alma de Arte Charter High School, Las Cruces. And I also, once again, want to note that our usual court reporter had an unexpected injury, which impacted her ability to do a transcript of these proceedings. We were only provided short notice that she would not be available for all of our meetings this week, and the court reporting service was unable to find a replacement. This Zoom meeting is being recorded, and written minutes complying with the minimum requirements under the Open Meetings Act will be provided along with a link to the Zoom recording. We have discussed the issue with counsel for the school and have posted the process for obtaining transcripts if an appeal is anticipated. That process is posted with the meeting materials online. Thank you once again and welcome, Alma de Arte. So we will start once again with the Public Education Department's comments, and then we will move on to the school's opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning, Alma de Arte. Good to see you here. I wanted to just start out by talking a little bit about process and making sure that it was clear the process that we used for the renewals. First of all, wanted to clarify that the Charter Schools Division submitted a Part A to each of the renewal schools with as much data as we could provide. And then the schools submitted the renewal applications on October 1st. The Charter Schools Division reviewed all the parts of the application, conducted the site visit. Again, I was fortunate to be able to attend Alma de Arte as part of that site visit, and we prepared a preliminary renewal analysis of the school. These were provided to the schools on November 12th. The schools had an opportunity to provide a response, and Alma de Arte did, in fact, provide a response. And I just checked the link. It is working. If you go to the submitted applications off of the PEC's webpage, you will see the complete application, including the school's response. And based on the response, the preliminary analysis, may have been revised if there were any sort of inaccuracies. In this case, I don't believe that we revised the preliminary analysis. Also, we used all of the information to make a renewal recommendation for each school, and that was sent out on December 1st. There's lots of details within the reports, and again, those can be found on the applications archive folder off of the PEC's webpage. Alma de Arte Charter High School is in its 17th year of operation. This renewal would grant it a 5th term. The grade level served at this school is grades 9 through 12. The school has a cap of 280 and 118 students are enrolled as of the 40th day for the 2021-22 school year. Alma's mission is to graduate artists, scholars prepared to succeed and implement they implement an arts integrated approach to learning. The school's previous contract was renewed for 3 years, effective July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. During the current contract term, there is no state assessment data available and no short cycle assessment data. Therefore, indicator 1A was not rated by the Charter Schools Division. The school serves a population with 100% students qualifying for free or reduced lunch and a higher percentage of special ed students, nearly 1/3 of the population has an IEP. Although the school lacks academic results in part because of the 3-year term and because of the pandemic, which created a perfect storm, the school has put into place some strategies to meet student needs with MLSS, additional supports for special ed students, and student data tracking for those students that are enrolled in the Edgenuity courses. During the short contract term, the school has had a 100% turnover in governance and 3 head administrators. It went from receiving 12 working to meet standard ratings in 2020 to 2 in 2021. Some of that was because of the pandemic. We had assurances and we're not tracking all of them, but they substantially reduced the number of areas of concern. There were 2 that did not meet standards in this most recent year due to audit findings and to protecting the rights of English language learners. The school has made progress in reducing audit findings from 9 related to fiscal year 2019, for which it was rated and released in the spring of 2020, to 4 related to fiscal year 20 financials, for which the audit was released and rated in the spring of 2021. The Charter Schools Division recommends that the contract for Alma de Arte Charter High School be renewed for 5 years, with the condition that the school submit a plan outlining how, during the remainder of the current contract term and during the next contract term, the school will improve student growth in both literacy and mathematics.
Thank you. And thank you all once again. So you've got your, I will ask you to introduce all the folks that are here from the school before you get started, and then you can begin.
Got to turn me on here. Hello, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. My name is Kayla Martinez. I am the Principal and Chief Academic Officer for Alma de Arte. With us, we have Angie Lerner. She is our business manager. We have Kimberly Skaggs, who is our Vice President of our Governing Council. We have Mr. Vernon Wilson, who is our treasurer on our Governing Council. Behind me, we have Mr. Ramon Padilla. He is our history teacher and long been around since the dawn of Alma. And we also have Roman Reyna, who is a current student and senior with us. We have Mr. Patrick Hernandez, who is our registrar and has been around for a few years at our school. And we have Miss Carmen Bell, who is also a senior at our school this year.
And also, Patty Matthews is here.
And Patty, yes, Patty is on your screen with us. And we also have Susan Fox with us here in person. Thank you. Okay. All right, sorry, I'm new to this. A little nervous, a little kind of, so if you have to look at me and go, okay, go. Just let me know. But thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to come down here to Las Cruces to meet with us. We truly appreciate you making the drive down here. And we thank you all for what you guys do for charter schools. It is, charter schools are very near and dear to my heart. I worked in nothing but charter schools my entire career. So I find that charter schools are very, very important to education and what we do. So again, like I said, my name is Kayla Martinez. And this is my second year with Alma. Last year was my first full year. I was hired on as the permanent head administrator after Alma had an interim administrator with Dan Lear for the first year of the charter contract. And as Karina mentioned, we did have a previous head administrator, Holly Shulo, who was during the last renewal term of the contract. So there has been quite a bit of turnover, to say the least, but luckily there is some stability with me here now. I was renewed for a 2-year contract, so hopefully it'll keep going from here on out. This role has been a little challenging, to say the least. In the middle of COVID, it probably would have been challenging on a normal day with all the situations that Alma had in the past. But I can honestly say, in the term that I've had here, I really, really love this school and all the characteristics that it has with it. And I feel like it benefits Las Cruces in so many ways, because we really hit a target of students that are unique and different, that don't fit the mold of any other traditional school. Like Karina mentioned, we are very heavy in special education students. We are also very heavy in LGBTQ+ community of students, which have really found our school to be a sanctuary and safe haven for them here in Las Cruces at our high school. Everyone at Alma, I have found, even just coming in myself, has a huge heart, all staff and students alike. They are all very warm and welcoming, and you can really tell that by coming in the door. And it's, I would have to say, is a huge turnaround from what we've had in the past prior to this contract term. And so that was really good to see. And I really believe that Alma is headed in a direction to surpass what it has in the past. We've also had a little bumps and hills along the way, but you know, it's like every other school, and we really have what we need now in the tools to start heading in the trajectory to make it into, you know, something that focuses more on reading and math and those academic skills that it was lacking with the drama that we had for a little while there. So but first off, I'd like to address the 100% turnover in the governing council. That was something that was needed for our school, and it headed us in the right direction, I believe. Right now, we have a very supportive governing council. Students are their #1 goal, and making sure that we have what we need as a staff, and also me as a head administrator, to make that possible for students. And they really understand what our mission and vision is, and that we really need to focus on that and get back to that. Whereas it kind of went ahead and got away from that in years past, I believe. And so hiring stable administration, I think, was the first best move that they made. Having a lot of turnover made it really difficult for Alma for a couple of years. And just having somebody that also believes in that goal, which I do myself. I think having an arts integrated school is very important, and especially in the community that we have. And it's something that this school has really needed, is having somebody, the backbone to provide that support for all staff and students. They've been great at learning what our wants and needs are and are willing to lend a hand in anything we need to accomplish those goals. And so we've worked really hard this last year since I've been here to make sure all our policies are in place, that they're new and updated, which are very important as well, and continue growing on those policies of what we need as a school, because Alma was lacking that in a lot of different areas. So for the governing council, we've really worked on it. Finance department has drastically improved as well from the last renewal. Our audit findings, as Karina mentioned, have decreased significantly, and they're very workable and they're not too significant to mount down. So we've all worked together with the business office with K-12, who we have as our business office, and just making the most out of opportunities that we have now, utilizing and taking advantage of all the grant opportunities that are out there and monies that are available, and also making sure our requests for reimbursements are done in a timely manner and more on time to get to take advantage of more of that as well. We've had some extenuating circumstances in the past where that's been a little difficult to achieve, but now we've worked together and done really well with that, I believe, and we'll see a turnaround with that this year as well. With K-12, we've had a lot of checks and balances put in place. There's multiple people with eyes on what's going on in the finance department. So I believe that that's headed our finance department in a good direction as well, and made it to where we've got less findings and less situations going on, and no suspicious activity headed in that direction for the finance department. And governing council also has a hand in that, where they approve all of the money that's being spent and checks and things like that beforehand. So not only does administration have a hand in that, so does the governing council as well. Alma has also added to our family, our staff. When I got here, it was very bare bones, and we've added to our front office staff, which can be vital as far as checking on student grades, attendance, things like that. So we've added to our front office to make sure that we are able to support families and students and get them feedback in a timely manner when they have situations with attendance or with credit checks, things like that. We have those in place now where we can provide that quickly and respond with resources and things like that that students need. And so that's one thing that I would say is going really well for Alma. And then they are also able to help in recruitment efforts for our enrollment, because our enrollment has decreased a little bit over the last few years, just with all the situations going on and things like that. But now I believe we've laid low long enough to where now is the time to get our name back out there and get that positive light back with Alma, and that we're going to be the school to come to for the arts in Las Cruces. We'll be working on that through social media, revamping our school website, connecting with the schools locally here in town, middle schools and high schools, and of course, encouraging our word of mouth advertising as far as that goes. We've also added to our special education department. I have a special education background myself, and so that is also an area that is very near and dear to my heart. So correcting a lot of the things that were going on in our special education department were one of my top priorities when we came. We not only have a special education teacher, we also have a program specialist that is working with us full time, that is monitoring all our data, evaluation process, and our filing, and making sure all of that is up to date. We have also partnered with Region 6 in their IEP project, and they come in, this is our second year doing it. They come in, they kind of audit our files and give us an outside look as to what we need to improve on with the IEP process. And make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure our students are being serviced properly in that area. They also come in and do training with our SPED department once a month on different areas of the IEP. to make sure that those are written in the best way possible. And they also work with our ancillary staff on that as well. They will also be coming in to work with our general education teachers. In January, we have planned during our professional development day to help them with interventions in the classroom, things that they could be doing, and the important documentation that needs to be occurring on a regular basis in the classroom. So Region 6 has really, I believe, helped us improve in our special education department, and having the extra staff and eyes on what's going on has really helped as well. For the most part, our social worker, we now have full-time. We only had a part-time social worker before. With the need of not only our SPED students, but we see a huge need with general education students now with COVID and everything, and them coming back to schools. We see that social emotional need as well there. So we have also hired a full-time social worker for our school as well, who's also taken on the MLSS process, SAT process, and Section 504, which Mr. Padilla behind me was brave enough to take on his own as a teacher for many years. So relieving him of those duties, I know he's very happy about, but we at least have somebody with that background knowledge now in charge of those processes. We have also hired a part-time educational assistant that's a level 2 licensed art teacher. She will now be implementing in January a process with arts integration instructional coach. She'll be for our school, which is something brand new to Alma. Being that we are an arts integrated school, it's not something that all our teachers are well versed in and could definitely grow in. So we will be working on a plan with her to work with teachers to begin implementing arts integrated activities every day with the school and with all of our teachers. So I think that's something that was needed in that area, just to take our kids to that next level in their arts and scholarly activities that we're doing with the school. Next year, hopefully with increased enrollment, the plan is to continue to work on our reading and math scores, and hopefully we can hire a part-time instructional coach for our teachers in the reading and math area, and also a reading and math interventionist that can work more closely with our students that are in need of raising those scores. Academically, we are issuing out and rolling out a short cycle assessment. We will be using Illuminate. I had a little bit of experience with that working in Deming in my previous years. Alma did not have a short cycle assessment in years past, so that is something that we did bring to the table. We finished our training in it this fall, and we will be rolling that out with teachers now starting in January. We did go and try to get some short cycle data to start for the beginning-ish of the year. So about mid-November, we did roll out a similar assessment that we would be able to connect the data with for the rest of the year with Illuminate, but we used the comprehensive mathematical abilities test and the test of reading comprehension just to get that baseline data for us for the year. We did notice that many of our students could benefit from getting that intervention, especially our sophomores that missed out on their freshman year, mostly, due to COVID being remote. And so we noticed that across the board, their reading scores really needed to be worked on. And for math across the board, all of our students could really use that math intervention process. So also having a more stable math department. We had at least one position in math. We only have 2 math teachers. That has been a little bit of a revolving door. Math teachers are very hard to find right now. And so we finally have somebody who really loves math and is ready to jump in and help these kids in math. So I think having a more stable math department will help with those numbers across the board as well. But we will be using Illuminate to monitor our students' progress more regularly instead of relying on just state data, the SATs, things like that. So we could also have it in-house data as well that our teachers can refer back to frequently and use on a more regular basis, just to use towards more data-driven instruction that really needs to happen at Alma. But we'll also be working on professional development with data-driven instruction with our teachers. Right now they have available at online 24/7 on demand, the master teacher training program where they can access some of that at any time. And then we'll also explore other options for teachers to be able to grow in that area as well. Right now, we are negotiating out a contract with Reading Plus to be able to implement that as our reading intervention program at the school. I used Reading Plus at the previous charter school that I was at in Deming, and I saw students jump leaps and bounds, multiple grade levels in a year when they use the program properly. So I really truly believe in that program and think it'll do great things for our students at Alma. So we'll be implementing that. And we're currently reviewing our options for a math intervention program that we can implement at the school. We've looked at things like Khan Academy and IXL. It's just a matter of trying to narrow it down and pick one that's going to work best for our students and that they're going to respond well to. We are also doing the extended learning time program. We opted into it last year and this year as well. And so we are offering after school tutoring along with the extended learning time program, and just trying to recoup some of that learning loss that we've noticed our kids suffered during COVID. And those tutoring sessions are offered every day during the week after school. So students are welcome to stay and get those tutoring sessions after school. And last year was the first year that we implemented summer school, where kids were able to come in during the month of June to be able to either recover credit that was missed out either during COVID or prior to, and also to receive extra tutoring for students that needed help in those certain areas. We tend to have at least one teacher in each subject area to come in and help kids during summer school and after school program. And that's something that we'll continue to do because that's always a need in that area. But overall, I believe Alma is a great environment for our kids. Like I said, we have a very unique, diverse population, and I think it's desperately needed here in Las Cruces. It's a home for many that are provided a warm, friendly, supportive environment once they come into the building, and we have lots of room to grow. And we are, I believe, headed in that uphill trajectory of growing and we can leave the past behind us finally. I really believe that. And we're enhancing our program to bring our students up to a higher artistic scholarly level than we have seen in years past, like I mentioned. But like I said, I'm very confident and hopeful for the future of Alma. And I think we're going to start making a pretty loud buzz here in Las Cruces. So, but I hope you enjoy our video. As you'll see, it's a little brief snapshot of us, but hopefully you'll enjoy it.
You had that timed really well.
Yeah, there's all my stuttering.
Straight up going into high school, my sophomore and freshman year. Coming here, I mean, I'm doing better. I mean, it ain't as better, but you know, it's good. It's just a good energy around, you know? It's my little home.
As a student here, I've actually felt like really safe and heard. If I have any issues, I can come to my teachers and I can give them the problems I have, and we can usually work around it really well. The staff here has been really inclusive in wanting to learn pronouns, and even my friends have felt like their pronouns are used and heard, and all the teachers are very good at correcting themselves if they do make mistakes like that. Other than that, I don't really have any qualms with the school itself. I've been helping around with a lot of clubs lately, and they've been really helpful to gauge like all of the students' reactions to the school, and they've been almost all positive usually. I can take any problem I need to any of the staff here, and the principal has been really good with like taking us into a meeting and being able to hear our opinions and then coming to like a good conclusion. So everything here has been really good. The GSA club, I'm sort of a leader usually in there. We have a very big club to begin with. We helped about a couple months ago with New Mexico's Pride Festival. It was really great. A lot of our students came out to help the setup from like 2 p.m. all the way, and they did their own sessions at the Alma booth that we had there. I thought it was really fun, and a lot of them, they were so respectful, and they came to like me or the staff with any problems that they had. The whole thing went off like perfectly with our booth and with all of Pride, and the kids seem to have so much fun, all of the ninth graders. Right now, we are going to work with a couple of new organizations, I believe, to help maybe with a new fundraiser. We were thinking about also starting a clothing drive for trans kids to be able to get the clothing that they'll feel more safe in. We've been having some really good meetings talking about any issues we have in our school in general, and being able to come to the social worker and back to the principal to talk about like issues that kids are having with their pronouns or with teachers respecting stuff with them. But we've been helping a lot, actually. I really enjoy the GSA that we have right now.
And I'm a social studies teacher at Alma. I've been here since the very beginning of the school opening in 2004. And from that time, Alma has always been committed to diversity, to inclusivity, and certainly to equity. Even before those were kind of terms that the state was using in hopes of making our schools more responsive to all our communities, all our students, and all their families. It's been very nice to see the state make a commitment to equity. I am the Equity Council lead for the school. And I think that while we may have thought, hey, Alma's always been about equity, I think the movement after the Yazi Martinez case to be more intentional about equity has made our commitment even that much stronger. But from the very beginning, we wanted to have students voice their concerns. The very first year, we started the student leadership team, which is our form of student government, but without elections, more just students who want to be involved in developing their leadership skills. And through that group, students have always had a voice in making a difference at the school. Our commitment to student agency doesn't just stop with kind of our student government. Our classrooms are committed, our teachers are committed to ensuring that student cultures, their background, their language is respected and embraced. The books that they read in English class often are from authors from the cultures that they come from. As a social studies teacher, I make sure that we have a good balance of history in the classroom, that we're talking about very difficult topics that often come up when we talk about equity, when we talk about racism in America. And so they're always being respected while at the same time challenged. And then, you know, you really just have to look at the school to see how diverse the thought is of our students and how that's embraced. You walk into the building and immediately you're just going to be awash in work, in school, I'm sorry, in artwork, in visual artwork, in music performance. Student voice is everywhere, and that means that their culture is everywhere. And I don't think that that will ever change at Alma. That was what Irene Oliver Lewis set out to create here at our school. And it's a vision and a mission that we continue to hold to this very day, and to be able to grow on that.
I think that one of the great things about Alma is that a lot of people see themselves represented both in their curriculum and with their teachers. Having teachers that are so open with us is always wonderful, and it definitely makes me feel a lot safer. In addition to that, we have a lot of clubs, and they're heavily student ran. And while there are still sponsors, it is definitely more rooted in what the student wants what the students want for our school. And I think that benefits us a lot, and it definitely makes us feel like we have more control over education. I'm definitely still proud to call myself an Alma student after being here for 3 years. And I think that they've made their efforts to make this school a happy place for its students and an inclusive.
The school helped me discover who I am and discover my love of passion for makeup and sculpture and art. It helped me embrace who I really am, and everyone doesn't bully me for who I am. I love that I could be different, and I could be the gay man that I am. I just love that I can wear makeup dresses to the school and not feel shame. I feel the school is more open than public school, because when I was at a public school, I felt ashamed and that I couldn't be myself. I had to be hidden and be a straight person that I'm not. But over here, I felt that I could start new and open my shell, blossom into this human that I am right now. And I love that I can call Alma my home.
Thank you. We have 5 people that have signed up. 5? Yes, 5 people that have signed up for public comment. So I'm going to ask everyone to try to keep yourself to 2 minutes. And when you do begin to speak, if you simply identify yourself for the record. Are they all online? Okay.
So please come to the first person is Roman Padilla.
Good morning, Chairperson Gibson and the rest of the commission. Thank you for your time today. Like I said in the video, I've been at the school since it opened. I was the second teacher hired at the school. I got to pick the tables and the chairs that were painted that very first day that we had students in the building. And I will say that students are definitely our strength. The strength of Alma is her students. The students want to be there. They feel like they need to be there. And that's just been so important. The students have really taught us how to be better adults to them, right? And I think that's super, super important. But that can't happen without teachers who are open. And the way we've been able to hire teachers at our school is to really focus in on that mission. And I can really honestly say that every single teacher comes to our school and embraces that mission. We exist to graduate student scholars or artist scholars prepared to succeed. That's super, super important. And if you asked any one of our teachers, they'd be able to say that to you, and that mission is very, very important to them. I'm very happy that we have been able to fully staff our student support services. For a long time, we didn't have that. And that's been very, very important to meeting the needs of our students, in particular during the pandemic. And I just want to say again to the film, Thomas is such a great student. He's been with us for 4 years. And it's very heartwarming to hear him say how he feels welcomed at the school when he didn't feel welcomed in other places. And I think if you talk to any one of our students, they're going to tell you the same thing. This is my home. When they come to us, they are not so sure, right? It's a little different. They have to kind of figure that out. And we're hoping to have an onboarding system, an onboarding program that's going to make that even more explicit. I think we've kind of hoped that by osmosis, our students would kind of take our culture in, but we're going to be more intentional about that. But even without the intentionality, we've had just the privilege of serving these wonderful students at our school and in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person is Carmen Bell.
Hi, I'm a senior at Alma de Arte, and arts integration has just been super important to my education throughout my high school. It provides a novelty way of thinking that I didn't have access to previously. And I think that you'll see that reflected in my grades. I've done significantly better here than I had it through middle school. And in addition to that, I get tremendous amount of support from my teachers. And I think they really listen to students. And we have an interpersonal relationship with our teachers that helps them understand our needs and accommodate for them. Also, as a queer student, it's good to have teachers that listen to you and understand what makes you feel safe and comfortable, and that they take those actions in the classroom. It's super important to me, even small things. The fact that we have those flags at the front of our school is very important to me, and that makes me feel so safe and accepted. And we also have a lot of mental health resources, which is great as a queer student. Again, the fact that we can always have someone to talk to is incredibly reassuring. And thank you.
Thank you.
Next person is Roman Reina.
Hi, my name's Roman. I'm a senior. I didn't exactly know what to present here, so I'm just going to go over my general experience with Alma. To start off with my experience at Alma, I was originally going to Centennial. I was suicidal, depressed, anxiety. I couldn't even go to school. If I had to be honest with you, I couldn't really do much at all. I was home. I couldn't even be around my family. I was locked in my room all day. And when I went to Alma, after a year failing as a freshman, having to redo my year as a freshman at Centennial, I just said, I'm gonna go to Alma. And the only reason I went was because of my cousin. But over these 4 years that I've been there, it's been a life-changing experience. I still missed a lot of school the first 2 years, yes, but my grades significantly improved. And then after that, I became a junior, which was weird because I wasn't ever expecting to even graduate high school or get near that. But my junior was also when COVID hit, and that was hard because I was home. I thought I'd like it. In reality, I didn't, because I was being bullied by my little brother and older brother, to the point where like I was stuck in my room all day. I wouldn't eat and I wouldn't even socialize. And then I found out they were doing tutoring and all, so I went there. They helped me out through my toughest time in life when I was about to fall back into my depression.
and about to, off myself as quickly as I could have. Now I'm a senior with the 3.7 GPA. I love to make myself happy and others happy. And I also love to go to Alma. It's been the best experience I've ever had at this school. And I like to think that Alma de Arte is the place where most people who feel outcasted like me, smashed in by society, can go and help, just feel at home. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next person is Patrick Hernandez.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick Hernandez. I am the current registrar at Alma de Arte. And I came on in about 2014, fall of 2014. And things are okay. As you guys well know, that there's been quite a few changes that have happened. And I can honestly say that I'm one of the surviving members of admin that has been through, 4 principals now. So it's been a little hard, but and I always hear that you shouldn't bring up any negatives when you're trying to be positive, but it's been tough. It's been really, really tough. The one thing that holds true with us is that we are a very close-knit family. Teachers like Ray and students like these two are definitely things that hold the school together, because at times when it's been really difficult, everybody bands together to help and make things work out. And the student body is one of the special things about Alma. Students like Carmen Bell and Roman Reina, who are very different students, but have both have seen a lot of growth. Carmen used to be very, very quiet, and now she's leading discussions on equity in schools. And Roman, when he first came to us, so quiet, we could barely keep him in classes. And now he's got a 3.7 GPA, getting ready to graduate this year. I think that says a lot for who we are. And the staff, administration, all of us are just one big family. And I think that just needs to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Eric Honor.
Good morning. My name is Eric Honor. I'm the Executive Director of J. Paul Taylor Academy, and our school is neighbors to Alma de Arte. Madam Chair and members of the commission and staff of the Charter School Division, thank you for traveling south. It's very nice to be able to see you in person and have you here. And it's also my honor to speak on behalf of Alma de Arte. When I think of the responsibility that you all have, looking at the minutiae of what goes into a charter application and the performance of a school, it's a daunting task. You're really digging in deep. The same is true certainly for the school. And it's nice to be able to step back and talk about the big picture, which you guys also have to look at and weigh that with the challenge of sometimes not having enough data or looking at massive changes in the school. Alma has certainly seen their changes. And I think I can relate to that. When I started at Aldo Leopold in 2009, I was the 4th director in 5 years. When I started at J. Paul Taylor, I was the 3rd director in a 3-year period. And sometimes those changes, as painful as they are to the school, to the students, or to the commission who's trying to decide where's the school going, those changes are absolutely necessary. And I think they were. I think knowing bits and pieces about where the board was in the administration, I think it was time to find a new administrative direction with the support of the board. And I believe that the changes that are in place are the right changes. And I believe the leadership that Ms. Martinez brings is essential and stable and going in the right direction. I think it's also equally, if not more important, to talk about the stability of what hasn't changed at Alma de Arte. They serve a population of students who have found a place that feels like home. It's a place where they feel like, in many cases, they've come off the rails in their direction in education, but they feel like they have an opportunity to gain an environment that feels healthy for them. And I think that they have accomplished that equally to a staff that's been diehard to stay the course when sometimes administration has not been as consistent. I think the staff and the students have been the stable part, and the new administration is going in the right direction. I wish them luck and thank you.
Commissioners, I'm going to ask, do you want another short break before we start into the questions? Okay, all right. So thank you once again. I truly do appreciate it, and all the time and effort, and especially, you know, the last time we were up here with Alma for renewal, we were with a new head administrator. So it's been challenging. I have a good friend who refers to his children's middle school years as the dark years, and that's all they do say, dark years. And unfortunately, I think with Alma, the last kind of 2 years, it's just the dark years. But there is no doubt about the fact, as has been represented here, and a testament to Mr. Padilla in particular, hanging in there. It is the staff and the students that have been the gel that has kept this school together. The school unfortunately lost its way on arts integration. And I am so relieved to hear about that partnership or contract that you're going to do, because it's a core of the school. It is what has helped to draw students to the school, and it's an important service to the community. So I'm really glad that you're heading on that track. But could you spend a little time, because I know in your application you said that last year, because of COVID and everything that we've gone through, you were unable to, when the school was remote, to do any of the arts integration into those lessons. So could you just talk a little bit about how instruction looked last year when we were all remote?
It was fun. It was kind of a mess. You know, we were all trying to still figure it out at the beginning of the year, and then having to deal with me coming in brand new, what expectations we had, what we could gather in place to make sure that the kids were still getting some kind of decent instruction online. It was kind of one of those you're picking and grabbing and taking where you can situations. So coming in, I didn't beat down teachers as far as make sure you're doing arts integration when they're just trying to survive themselves and trying to make sure kids are logging on and they're getting activities to do, things like that. So our main goal for the year was, okay, we've always kept the consistency of having the panel project at the end of the year, which was the students come together and they have an essential question that they've worked on for the year. And at the end of the spring semester, mid-semester, they have to present on that essential question, which has to deal with how the arts has helped students with their academics or how they see it in a community light, things like that. So we kind of did more of an arts integrated project per se in their panels where they had to present that instead of really trying to drill teachers and make sure you throw something artsy in there. Didn't want to really do that, especially when they're having to deal with all the adjustments and changes that they had to, not only me, like I said, but just teaching in general and having to learn all of that concept of being remote. And it was hard for some of our teachers because we do have some that have been around since the dawn of Alma, like I like to call it. We do have some older teachers that struggle technology wise.
Right.
So making sure that they do that as well was just an added stressor. And I was just telling him, just survive for just a little bit, just make it. And so that's kind of where we did last year. And this year it's kind of like, okay, we've got it down. We're good. We're in person. If we need to go remote, you know what you need to do. Let's start reintegrating these important things that we really need to focus on doing now.
Thank you. And I don't know if some commissioners realize this school was probably heading to the record of most appearances before the PEC. And it was primarily as a result of special ed concerns. So I truly do applaud all the efforts that have been made to fix those issues, because above all else, it's not as much about compliance, it's about the students that weren't being served and the needs that they had. And that's, you know, I shouldn't publicly say, I don't really care about, you know, that it's 100 hours, but the fact that that 100 hours represents students who, you know, I got calls from parents who said my child was crying in the bathroom because they couldn't do this and they weren't getting any help. And it's like, that's, you know, that's what we want to make sure doesn't happen. And that's not something that Alma was known for. You know, Alma was always known for the school that listened to their students and took care of the students' needs. And thank you for hiring the full-time counselor as well. Because we all know after, you know, in normal times, it's necessary, but after all of this, we're all trying to recover in some fashion. So it is really important. I just want to talk a little bit about the challenges with the Governance Council. And we all know them. We've lived through a lot of them. And I was a little concerned because it was identified in the application that you dropped down to 3 members for, I think it was 3 months. So you actually lost your Board of Finance. So can you talk to me about how the school was able to navigate that when they didn't have a Board of Finance in place and make decisions about the school when you don't have a quorum?
Right. So that was prior to my time.
I know.
So from the little that I do know about that situation, it was just because, you know, that was the time when everybody said, okay, you need a new board, I'm out. And they all kind of jumped ship at the same time and it went, ah, you know, so ideally there was just, I think 1 month in there that we were down to the 3. And by the next meeting, they had they had brought on that 4th member. So at least it was a little bit better there for a while, but you were there by that time, right, Angie? So she could probably speak more to it than me
All the
personally.
new governance council members, I did go over with them in depth how to read the financial statements that K-12 gives them, because we do a whole board packet. I went over the importance of what they need to look for due to the fraud that they had before, as well as certain things on the bank account. There were already some stipulations they had on the bank account due to the fraud where you can't change bank statements. Like once you pull it out, you can't manipulate it. You can just put it into a report. And then they also had some extra precautions on the bank account where if it was an unusual transaction, the bank manager would call me and I would verify that, yes, we were doing this and what the amount was, what it was. And then email had to be sent out for stating, yes, this is what we want to do. But I did go intensive with the new board members on how to read the financial statements and that it was very important on what to look for. And when they wanted to first rush through some things, I was like, no, every month you look through all of the checks that were cut. And I showed them kind of how to look at it and say like, oh, what's this? Because this isn't a normal one. Or if you don't know what the name is, ask so that you can know what we're spending the money on.
Appreciate that, because once again, for commissioners that aren't aware, there was unfortunately malfeasance that was involved prior, so that, and the school was able to, and actually the issue was identified as a result of the board taking a proactive stand and saying, we think there's something wrong, we need to dig into this, and appreciated that. It set it down, you know, a path that I don't think anyone anticipated, and appreciate all of that. My concern, and I know you weren't there, but my concern still goes back, and I guess I have to kind of ask the director as well, because we had a school with 3 months that they didn't have a Board of Finance. So how does a school, I don't know how a school functions and makes decisions and who votes. That's my question. During that time period, I don't see how any expenditures could have been approved because there wasn't a quorum of the board.
We did have them go over the financial stuff after they got the fourth member. There was lots of discussion of how they were going to appoint another person to the board with only 3 and no quorum. But it was decided once they got 4, because I believe there was only 3 for 1 month, and then they hired the next one. Not hired. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the
started that one
application
in-
said for 3 months, you were, and even with 4, you still don't have a board of finance.
So I came in right around the time where they had 3, and then they got the 4th person. And what we did was we just went through all the financials and had them, and I just did a training on how they need to actually look through all the reports, because they were not, the old board that all resigned did not really care to look over finances, did not care to see things. And I told them that they need to care and how to look through things.
Okay. And Ms. Matthews?
Commissioner Gibson, members of the commission, I'm looking at, that's the benefit of being at my computer, looking at the provision in the Public School Finance Act, and there's nothing in the Public School Finance Act that says, I understand the 5-member minimum, but that's a different statute, and there's a difference between a 5-member minimum to constitute a charter school governing body and being a board of finance. And once designated as a board of finance, they exist as a board of finance until that's revoked by the Public Education Department, which did not happen. And I'm also a little confused about this concept of quorum, which I confess I don't have their bylaws in front of me, but I'll assume, just like with the commission, it would be a majority of those seated members. So you
No,
can
I'm
have-
sorry. I am going to correct you. The AG has informed us that our quorum is always 6.
Because you have a stated number, yeah. And so, but if it's a 5-member governing body of a charter school, 3 of a 5 would be 3 is the quorum. So for you all, you're elected body and those seats are identified, but here they do have a quorum. They can vote and they can conduct business. And unless Kayla tells me otherwise, I had no information they've ever had their board of finance revoked.
No.
So they can act as.
Right. And I understand they haven't had it revoked. So I appreciate that. You have a question? Sure. Commissioner Voigt.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Hello.
Hi.
Alma. I wanted to commend you, Ms. Martinez, for taking on this position during COVID and after a tumultuous history. So congratulations on taking this on. You speak with a lot of passion and a lot of energy and a lot of determination to get this school back on track and in good standing. So I wish you all the best with that. So I just have some questions from some notes that I've jotted down. So as far as your short cycle assessment data, is there any existing data that you can start growing forward with?
Yes, so in our charter response that I submitted on the 24th or 25th, whatever it was, excuse me, we did have that baseline data there that we could start with, because due to COVID, we really didn't have any state assessment data in this short term of a contract. So we do have that in our response, where it shows, it gives a breakdown of 4 different categories in reading, and I believe 5 in math.
Right. And you're just going to be
where it's
switching
struggle.
up the vendor.
Right. So we were able to get our hands on this right away, and we said, okay, run it. We took time out. Our teachers were very gracious in giving us some of their time to run that testing over a course of 3 days. with all our kiddos, and we grabbed them as they came in the door and hurry, go take this test. And so that way we could have some kind of baseline data. We had about 71% of our kids that were in the building that we could grab and be able to take that testing. So that's what we're using as our baseline to start the process. And worst case scenario, if teachers aren't comfortable with Illuminate by the end of January, early February mark, we'll run that same test again. But the reason why we use that was because it'll correlate very easily into Illuminate once we're able to
Super.
start using that.
That's perfect. And that was, you answered my other question, which was, did the data align with each other,
Yes,
with
yes.
each vendor? So super. And it sounds like you're being really proactive to rectify the issues that happened previously with special education.
Right.
So that's awesome. And bringing in a full-time social worker, kudos on that. With your arts integration, you know, I remember when Alma de Arte was founded, and I was cheering you on because another art school, another arts integration school. So you had mentioned that you do the essential questions at the end of the year. Does any of that involve students being able to represent their learning with possible art format or using art as expression? I see her nodding her head like, you did this.
Yes,
did
so
this.
with that, I was lucky to be able, because we did do senior panels last year. We kind of just used the overall practical course for the 9th through 11th graders, but I was very fortunate in being on one of the panels of judges for the seniors. And luckily they brought me snacks. With those that were in culinary, some of them did bake and bring in goodies, or they cooked something. They played music, they played the piano, the guitar. They would show us their different artistic abilities with their art or things like that. So they are very well versed in that aspect, so they can incorporate that into their panel projects. I know some of the teachers are also incorporating art into some of their lessons, as far as they can present artistically, you know, with a project for whatever they're researching on, or different things like that. So there are little things here and there that they do in the classroom more frequently, but that panel project per se, those kids kind of focus on what they've learned throughout the year and how it's helped them through the arts. And
That's
so-
great, because so often students can better represent their learning in an artistic way and express themselves also in an artistic way, more than a written essay, for example, or certainly more than taking a standardized test.
Right. And our teachers are very flexible in that area because they understand that.
Super.
And so it's great to see the finished projects.
Yeah, for
Especially
sure.
when it's food.
And you know, there is the opportunity for graduation capstones for seniors.
Right.
So you knew about that.
Yes.
Capstone presentations. Okay, super. So, you know, with a school that has a revolving door of administrators and governing board members and or teachers, it makes it really doubly hard to try to re-identify yourself. And so I think that you have your work cut out for you. It sounds like you're going to do a stellar job. I have no doubt going forward. I had a question about your K-12 business management. When you manage your grants, I know there's the public education department grants, and then perhaps you're applying for some outside grants, foundation grants. Does K-12 manage those, or do you have someone at the school site that oversees those?
So as of right now, we have all the grant money coming through PED. It's all the ones that are available through there. But K-12 does manage, help manage those funds. I come up with the budget for it and how we want to spend that money. And then I work with Angie very closely on making sure that we follow through on that budget and spend it on what we planned on spending it for.
Okay, super. It's great that you have your hand in the pie on, you know, most things. So do you have a current policy in place right now? I know I heard you say that you're updating your policies and you're getting everything back to being caught up
Right.
with having current policies. Do you have a current complaint policy?
Like Title IX complaints and all of those.
Like if anyone wanted to complain?
Yes, yes.
Okay, super.
We do.
All right. And do you provide transportation?
We do not.
Okay. You don't own a vehicle?
No.
Okay, that's
do
good.
not.
That's probably good. And then
Less stress.
exactly. So during your after-school tutoring and your summer school, how do you incentivize your students to attend?
So with last year being, my first year and also the first year of implementing that really, we had quite a few students grab onto those opportunities, especially, for a while there, we weren't able to offer any in-school opportunities due to COVID. But towards the end there, when we were able to bring in students into the building, we had quite a few take advantage of that extra opportunity to be able to come and get tutoring, things like that, especially during COVID is what we saw. And then summer school, I expected, just a few kids here and there to grab onto it because it was our first year. But we actually had quite a few come in and take advantage of that opportunity or were able to recover credits. We did it more as a credit recovery last year, per se, just because we noticed that first semester, there was a lot of kids that really, really struggled online.
Yeah.
And so they were able to come in and recover that credit in the summer. And so I'm anticipating that because we already have kids asking about it. Am I able to come for summer school or how can I recover this credit? So I think it's something that the kids are really taking advantage of and grabbing a hold of.
Yeah, when the kids see each other being successful, that's
Mhm.
incentive. In addition to you, I mean, you probably bought a few pizzas and stuff too, right?
Right.
So I want to commend you also in your GSA staff and having that representation for students to be proud of who they are and their identity and to be able to speak up to that. So great job on that.
Yeah, I actually have to give the credit to Patrick behind me. He's the one that has really taken off with that and initiated the program. And the flags, to go back, that Carmen was mentioning earlier in her response, we do fly the GSA flag outside of our school.
Awesome. That's
So,
super.
yeah.
And I heard Patrick also say that seeing the students in the curriculum, for them to be able to see themselves really is important. So it was great to hear him speak to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Burt? Commissioner Robbins?
Thank you. Three areas that kind of piqued my interest, and I appreciate the comments that you had in responding to Commissioner Voigt. What percentage, you mentioned in your opening comments, you had a large percentage of special ed students. Can you tell me what your current percentage is of total student body?
Sure. Right now, this year, and even last year, we run at about a third of our students being in the special education population. We have currently 39 students. Last year, I believe or 36, I'm sorry. Last year, we were running about 39, 40 kids on average. And we've been on average between 120, 130 kiddos. So we run pretty close to a third of our population in special
Okay.
education, regardless
Yeah,
of whether it's gifted or on the special education side.
Okay. Yeah, and that's about 2 to 2.5 times what the state average is.
Right.
So it is a large percentage. You had 2 repeat findings, one of which was significant. Can you explain that? Because I did not see that in the review material as to what that significant repeat finding was related to.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that just a little bit so we know which one you're referring to?
Your financial audit, there were 2 repeat findings.
And for both years, the 1920 and then,
No, this is for the 1920. Previously, there was 4 repeat findings, but now there was 2 repeat findings.
right.
And there was one that was significant. There's no information in what I saw in the materials, the analysis that indicated what that significant finding related to. Because again, that goes back to some of the history that the school had with fiscal issues.
I'm thinking, let's see, because it looked like a repeat, or finding, sorry, I'm trying to read it on my phone. I didn't bring the paper copy. The ERB finding,
May I speak?
and then, yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You sure?
Commissioner Robbins, if you are at the link that I sent you, the application archive folder, Part C delineates all of the financial performance of the school.
But can you, I mean, without me having to, take away right now and go look for that. I tried to look for it earlier. I couldn't find it.
So there were 3 travel and per diems tested, for which the travel form did not include the signature of the director or the supervisor and or the claimant. And 2 travel and per diems tested related to travel from December 2018 and February 2019 that were processed in fiscal year 20 versus fiscal year 19. So it was a repeat finding for.
Okay, so it's repeat finding, but it actually goes back to a prior year.
Yes.
It wasn't processed timely. Okay, that's fine.
And that has been fixed in the FY21 audit.
Thank you. The last thing, and I may be jumping on Commissioner Manis's question about maintenance. Looking at your overall budget for the current year and comparing it to the last couple of years, your maintenance has really jumped tremendously. And can you address that? Because your overall equalization guarantee money is basically trending, what I'm seeing here, it's flat. It's down quite a bit from a couple of years ago, $50,000 or $40,000 lower, but your maintenance, building operations, maintenance equipment is up significantly. Can you kind of address what's driving that, since you have a Las Cruces Public School building? What's driving your maintenance?
Sure. So we are very fortunate in the fact that our lease agreement with Las Cruces Public Schools is that we basically just give them what we get in our rental reimbursement. And it's that flat fee and that's it. We don't have to pay anything additional to that. So we are very fortunate in that area, and makes me happy. I don't have to worry about it. But with our rest of our funding and things like that, the grants have helped us a lot in that area, and has projected us a little bit higher in the monetary area with CARES money and things like that.
But that doesn't address why your maintenance expenses are so much higher budgeted for this year than it's been the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah. So as far as that goes too, we've been spending a little bit on using our E-rate funding, which we will get reimbursed on because we are upgrading all our internet and infrastructure as far as that goes. We had one of the worst internet structures that they had seen. We were basically still running on DSL, and we didn't even have fiber optic cabling to our school. So that was a project that was just finished, and we were spending a little bit more on that area, and spending it on equipment for kids with the Chromebooks, hotspots, things like that due to COVID. And then also we will be upgrading our phone systems as well, because those are over 15 years old as well.
Right. And that explains it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, basically, they never did any maintenance to upkeep any of the technology. So Kayla is actually starting and having to fix stuff that hasn't been done for 10 years or so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I just ask, tie into that?
Yeah.
So you're tied into LCPS? You don't use their system at all?
No, so kind of with internet wise, we were on our own.
Okay.
Had our own system, but now we are tied in with their fiber optic cabling. They helped us out with that just because in the building that we have next to us, that has a lot of our IT stuff in it. J. Paul Taylor coincidentally actually has their main housing in there for it. So we were able to tap into
Okay.
that and send it over.
Because I know some of the charters tie into LCPS system for reporting their grades and.
Right, and we
so
don't
on.
do.
And you don't
anything
do
of
that.
No,
Okay.
Just the fiber optic cabling itself. That's it.
I live out there,
Yeah,
you know, fiber optics never go.
yeah, no,
I'm
I'm
still-
the same way.
Commissioner Burt.
Thank you, Chair Gibson. Hello. All right. So the first thing I want to say that just jumped out, that just made my heart really happy, is the inclusivity of your school. And I want to start by saying that because I have a daughter who also goes to a school that's extremely inclusive, so much so that she says, if you're not weird at my school, you're weird, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I love that. And it is a safe space for students who are marginalized and really discriminated against in a traditional school setting. So I am so supportive of creating that space at your charter. It's one of the many reasons I'm such a supportive person for charter schools, because it does create those spaces for students who need them the most. I also really, really like that your students feel that. They called it their home multiple times. For high schoolers to call their high school their home, that's impressive. That says something. I also really love charters because it gives the opportunity for students to get arts integration into their school, right? That's not something that they can get at traditional high school. So providing that opportunity is, I mean, it's such, for me, arts integration and arts charter school is such an easy sell. I mean, we live in a state where the arts are just magnified and celebrated. And so it's such an easy sell to have an arts focused school and that be an opportunity for students in the community to attend. So such an amazing environment and atmosphere that has been created from Alma, and to go through navigating what I've heard of all the challenging times and still end up in this place where students are choosing this school, families are choosing this school because of that culture is phenomenal. In the same vein, I'm going to say those families and students are also entrusting that you're going to create a really rigorous and relevant academic space as well. So with that being said, I think I was a little surprised when I loved Commissioner Gibson's question about, how did it go during COVID, right? Like, what did that look like? And I can definitely empathize and understand this being your first year's leadership. You've had these changes in leaders that creates, a turbulent time for everyone. But I was a little surprised that the arts was the thing that you were like, okay, let's not worry about that right now and focus on these other things. Because I could imagine that maybe the arts could have been one of those things that really kept your students while they were at home, right? Like that's why they chose your school. So I would hope that in the future, that would be the thing that you're like, that's the thing we got to keep, right? We got to keep the arts in our art school. During COVID, I saw that you're using Edgenuity tradition, like before COVID. Is that the platform that everyone kind of moved to during COVID?
So
Or-
no,
okay.
so kind of to go back to your initial
Yeah.
response too, I wouldn't say specifically that the arts weren't applied at all because they still had their electives per se, but the
Okay.
core teachers specifically weren't hammered to make sure they had all of that integrated in there. So
Got
they
it.
still had their outlets with different electives and things like that.
Okay.
And it was also up to the teacher to implement if they had different projects, things like that. But Edgenuity itself is just more of our credit recovery course and courses online that the kids use. If they have to go fully remote right now, that's what they're using to get their instruction versus having to pull a teacher away from a class or their prep period, things like that. And then it's used in the event that that class just does not work in their schedule, that we could fit it in there for them. But during COVID, we used Canvas.
Okay.
And the teachers used Zoom to present their classes and put all their information and all their coursework and everything through Canvas. And we still have that now. We're still implementing that. And I tell them, you know, make sure you have all this stuff on Canvas, because in the event tomorrow we get shut down, it's all there and you can just pick up right where you left off. So those are the ones that we're using specifically, and Edgenuity is just our supplemental backup plan in the event that we need it for.
I
kids.
appreciate that, because I actually, I didn't know for sure if that's like, when she asked about what did you do, and I couldn't get like for sure exactly what the programming looked like. And it makes, I mean, that makes sense to me, because I feel like it's, I mean, it's not normal.
Mhm.
There's nothing normal about it for your teachers or your students, but I feel like of the options, it may have been the most normal
Right.
option. So I'm happy to hear that. I think one of the things I just struggle with is it's so hard. I mean, it's of no fault of your own that for the last 3 years you have no data. I mean, it's there's nothing you could do differently, right? And I think it could, I would have loved to seen like this baseline in year one and you know, this growth over time. And especially in the last 2 years, right? Like where you maybe started picking up some steam and the governing board is solid. And now we have a leader that's going to be there for forever, right?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay. All right. So, you know, it would be great to like be sitting here and see this, some growth, right?
Right.
And so it's definitely challenging in the absence of that, and knowing, you know, what the issues have been previously. So I do want to say, I mean, it's like, it's just it's a tough sell right now, right? Like, I think, you know, at the end of the day, not only are your families and students, you know, they're betting on you, right? They're giving you everything. They're betting on you that you're going to create this world for them in which when they graduate, they are capable of whatever their life brings them. But also we are, you know, like at the same time, I think that's kind of the situation that we may be in as well. So I think I'm definitely interested. I hear that you're kind of at the forefront of these initiatives, right? You're kind of starting these, you saw what happened, what can happen in the absence of not having a social worker, not having this front office staff help out, not having the arts integrated coach, what that leads to. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a really high standard and bar, you know, over the next course, you know, should you be renewed. So I just want to say that, you know, I hope I'll be on the commission next time. If, you know, if you're renewed and I see you again, I just feel like my bar would be really high, because it is such a privilege to serve your students in your community. And I think it's such a false dichotomy that you can't have a rigorous academic program and serve students in the arts as well. And I think you have to prove that, like, you gotta prove that, right? People often will look at it and see, oh, they're, you know, they're doing the arts. And so it's not even like a real school, or it's not like, you have to prove like we can do both.
Mhm.
So I like hearing about the items that you're putting into place to kind of get to that place. But I just have a hard time in the absence of like what that looks like moving forward. So I'm definitely, I hope you're here for, you got to stay. Like you got to
Yes, that's the
stay.
plan. Yeah, I don't want to go anywhere
Stay
unless they
you know,
forcefully move me out.
I mean, fair. And hopefully the governing board's only doing it just because there's something absolutely, you know, necessary. And hopefully your governing board's like in it and has this passion for these students who need this consistency. So I'm thrilled to see the progress, at least, you know, verbally,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll see it more visually in another round.
Yeah, like
So
Karina
thank you.
said, it was the perfect storm, literally. It was just kind of like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, kind
yeah.
of situation walking and going.
And I mean, I will say, I think I was a little, I don't know, concerned when I read the site visit and the preliminary reports, and I did read your response, and I appreciate all the data that you did provide then in response to it, but I was a little concerned. I'm like, oh, they don't know what their short cycle assessment is still. Oh, they don't know what their math intervention is still. Oh, they haven't developed, like they haven't implemented their reading intervention, you know, like those are like, I'm like, you know, this is their only senior year. Like you only get 1 year left with these kiddos that might need this math intervention, you know? So I just have this urgency, right? And that's what was concerning about when I was reading. I'm like, you got to do it now, you know, like we got to get those academic programs in place now because they don't have forever, right? We don't get them for forever. So I'm looking forward to the visual representations of the work in the future.
Thanks. And I think that disconcerting piece is even more disconcerting that there were no short cycle assessments before. I mean, that's, you know, kind of like, how did we not know that? You know, so, and what helped to inform instruction prior to this. So, yeah. Commissioner Carrillo. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No, I was looking away for a moment. Thank you. Thank you, Kayla and staff and everyone who's presented and all the kids who took part in the video and everything to support your school. It is nice, and we hear it more with charters and anything else, as Ms. Burt stated, that kids often refer to their school as their home. They find a place where with others like them where they can thrive. So thank you for what you're doing now to help create that space. So as I said with the last renewal school, the thing that I focus on while I'm up here in Santa Fe, if you didn't know, and so I mean, talk about an arts integrated community, right? And I really believe that arts needs to be integrated far more in our public schools in general. I mean, I really tried to push Santa Fe Public Schools at one time to be an arts integrated district, modeled after Guilford County in North Carolina. And the reason I mentioned Guilford County is because in terms of the buy-in, they had difficulty initially with buy-in from staff to be an arts integrated district. So the reason I'm bringing this up is where staff or a school can be arts focused versus arts integrated. And to me, and from what I've learned, arts integrated is where it's really embedded in everything teachers are doing, whether it's core classes or others. So what professional, and the difficult thing they had in North Carolina was the professional development side. It was teaching a lot of teachers how to reteach, you know, their subjects integrating art. So what professional development are you either providing now or committed to providing in the future to make sure that the mission of arts integration is being carried out?
Right. So I can definitely appreciate that question. We just actually discussed this about 2 weeks ago. Mr. Padilla behind me, since he has been there a long time, has helped our person that's going to be doing this arts integrated coaching per se. She actually was a part of the AmeriCorps group that used to come in and help with the arts integration way back when, gosh, how long ago was that, Ray? Probably like when the school became Alma. And so she was a part of that team. And so she kind of already had an idea as far as what they were doing before and what we could start implementing now. And now that she's come in as an educational assistant to one of our teachers now who had some health issues, she sees what these kids are working on and what they're doing day to day. So she can take that to the teachers now and start implementing that with them in the classroom and what that should taste like, smell like, feel like in the classroom, and helping them implement these little bits and pieces of art into their lesson plans. She will be working one-on-one with each teacher to start implementing that now in January.
Okay, and then will you, as the head administrator, then kind of do your due diligence, if you will, with classroom visits? I mean, making sure that kids, regardless of what it is they decide on as being created as part of the arts integration, to me, the accountability piece is really important. And the reason I say that is, and I know you didn't have, I mean, you weren't at the school at this time, but when we look at like pre-COVID grades, if you will, and proficiencies and everything for the school, I mean, it was horrible. And so one has to ask the question, since it was an arts integrated school then, what's going to be really different about the planning now to make sure that they climb out of that rut?
Right. So I think just starting to implement all these things in place now, because there really wasn't a plan prior to me being here. So last year had to take a lot of just kind of overlooking everything that had happened in the last couple of years, what the mission and vision and goal of the school really should be, and trying to formulate a plan in that direction and trying to implement all these small little pieces to make this one big, large school, and make it all fit and work together and not overwhelm staff. And, I've got to learn how to reteach all this stuff, and I've got to learn all these new systems and how to work all these different things just to make my job more difficult. So trying to integrate that a little bit at a time has really, really helped staff to ease into it and be like, okay, I can see how this works. I can see how this works in my classroom and what I can do to my lesson plan to alter it and make it work. So that's kind of where my part is just kind of, okay, here's my seed. I'm going to plant it. I'm going to let you run with it. And then I'm going to come in. And I told them they're really not going to like me after this charter renewal because I'm going to be around a lot more often than I am now, and not hiding in my office doing all this stuff. So my goal is to be in the classroom a lot more, at least daily, to see what's going on, if it's just a pop in for just a few minutes, because that's one thing with COVID and coming into this new position, I really miss going around and visiting with kids and staff on a frequent daily basis throughout the day, and just getting to talk to kids and see what works with them and stuff like that. And I get to do it in little pieces here and there, but that's what I'm really wanting to do once today's done. I told them after Tuesday, good luck, because you're going to see me a lot more often. So.
Well, good. That's a good thing. And I imagine you're going to have some staff that have challenges with the arts integration, where you're going to have to put them on performance plans. And, that's natural when we're teaching our teachers how to reteach, if you will, or how to integrate new ideas into their teaching. One of the things I noticed is that you include culinary as part of your arts integration. Yes. And I haven't seen that as often in New Mexico or in different districts around the country. So because culinary, unless somebody's father is going to buy them a restaurant, it's a difficult field to get into. It's a low paying field generally initially, but people can grow quite a bit, but they need to learn a lot of management skills and business skills. What are you doing on the culinary side of the arts integration to integrate, if you will, culinary, the business practices of culinary, and maybe different elements within the community to assist the school on the culinary track?
Sure. So culinary for our school is a different, diverse area. Our culinary kids actually make our lunch for us every day. So they have all the prep time in the morning to get all of that ready, even the day before if they have to. And they prepare lunches for us every day, not breakfast because we don't make them be there that early, but they do prepare our lunches for us every day. And as far as our baking class goes too, they do our bake sales for the school. Like they just made holiday pies and sold those. And they do different events throughout the year to provide. Also, the culinary does fundraising events, partnerships, like we did a couple of times throughout the beginning of this year, where they prepared food and catered events for the Distinguished Young Women's Program that provides scholarships. So they did different fundraising events like that. So our culinary instructor has done really well in providing the different aspects of, you know, this is what it takes to be in the kitchen and be hands-on, and here it goes. But this is where you can make your money in catering, and this is what you have to do with this different piece. And, you know, there's been students that have gone on, we actually have, our baking teacher was a former Alma student in the culinary class. So they've come back to teach baking for our school as well, and also be in the culinary field. But just teaching those different kinds of things also go into our career and college prep portion that we do in our advisory classes. So if they are interested in that area, they can go in and start researching what they need to know for if they want to become a chef or open their own restaurant. And this is all the different steps it takes to get there.
Okay, so like the business side of things, should they choose that path? Curiously, and I know you've only been there a short time, what's the graduation rate right now for the school?
So last year, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Last year, our graduation rate was 78%, and the year before was 87%. We saw a little bit of a decline with our seniors last year, just because they really struggled with the online remote programming. And so they'll be either finishing now by December, or they will be graduating this coming May.
That's fantastic. Do you have any kind of, or prior to you being there, or with your moving forward now, do you have any systems whereby you track your graduates as to whether they're going into post-secondary education? If so, are they completing programs? And if so, are they needing remedial help?
Right. So my understanding is it was done just kind of on a voluntary basis prior to being here, but my registrar, Patrick, behind me, and I have also discussed that we should start doing that more frequently now here in the coming future. And the teachers that work in the apprenticeship with those kiddos try to document and take note what their plans are post-secondary, and us finding some type of way to be able to be in contact with them after the fact, instead of them coming just to visit us and we hear about it on a whim, of where we can try to track them post-secondary that way.
Well, and the tracking will end up serving you very well as a recruitment tool, because typically when arts integration is done really well, the kids not only love school and going to school, and they don't, you know, they also do well, but they, you know, they end up being kind of whole citizens, if you will, and they take all of that learning into everything they're doing afterward. And so that's why grad rates are typically a lot higher in arts integrated schools. So, well, thank you, you know, for the work you're doing. The last question I have, because this I know was a challenge for the school prior to your arrival, what, and maybe it's your board chair who might speak to it, what are you doing to strengthen the accountability of the board, education of the board, and also their just desire to stay on the board, so there's the continuity that you need?
Do you want to talk to that camera, or do you want me to jump in on it?
Sure.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Kimberly Skaggs here. I'm the vice president. Thank you so very much. And again, thank you for traveling. It is such a gift to get to see our counterpart, and actually get to make real eye contact. Thank you very much. So as far as developing the board and more of it, am I allowed to do that or no? Am I? Thank you.
It's fine. You can take it off if you're speaking.
I didn't know, sorry. Our board that we have now, it is amazing. Our president, Mr. Doolin, Paul Doolin, he recruited myself and the rest of the standing board right now. Everybody that's on the board is committed, not just to fulfill their current term. Everybody on the board is super excited to be able to support our administrator and help in any way we can. We all have different strengths. We're a nicely rounded board. And if you can't tell, I'm incredibly proud to be a member of it, to get to watch the changes happen and see the school excel. I cannot wait to be here at the next charter renewal. I'm excited about it. Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. And I think that, I mean, I've only been on the commission now almost a year, right? But I know that a lot of the challenges that have come before us, even when I look back and when I listen to Chair Gibson, sometimes a lot of them have to do with finances, basically slip ups. You know, it's very rare that there's really malfeasance. It's generally somebody, you know, just not putting something in a timely fashion or something. But we often have challenges with boards. And so I would just encourage you to just really stay on top of that, since historically the school has had that challenge. And I'm excited to hear that you have people that want to serve beyond their terms and just, well, they love the idea of public service on behalf of kids, because there's nothing better, is there? So anyway, thank you very much for the work you do on behalf of our children. I'm looking forward. I guess we're going to get a 3-year report from you because of the way the recommendation is written, and I'm looking forward to that. So thanks for coming. Sorry I couldn't make it down to Cruces, but you all take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Commissioner
Chair
Burt-
Gibson,
Oh,
can
I'm
I just
sorry.
piggyback off of that real quick? And I just do want to add that the governing board is also very willing to learn, even if they're not well-versed in any school politic area. They do on occasion, last year I noticed that the ones that have stayed into this year, they did take the opportunities to do extra training hours aside from what they're assigned to. So, and if they don't know, they're willing to, you know, jump in and get their feet dirty and learn more about it and just be well-versed in that area. So I just wanted to throw that in as well, that we're very fortunate that they're willing to be like us educators and still want to learn on a daily basis.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Burt.
Thank you, Chair. So there was something that Commissioner Carrillo brought up that I was hoping to get a question or maybe it's just a comment. So I heard you say there wasn't really like a strategic plan before you came in, right? Like you're developing this plan, you're implementing the plan for like this brand new thing. And it really made me think of your teachers, especially the ones who have been there. When you're a teacher and there's a change in administration constantly, there's no plan, you probably feel left alone a lot. And it's a testament to your teachers, number one, if they stay through that, right, through that turbulence, but also their grit and resiliency to, you know, do things on their own, right, without solid leadership or without a plan. So I would really hope as a teacher myself that you really put a huge focus into your teachers and professional development as a huge part of your academic plan moving forward. You know, it's always challenging when you get from one principal just to another one, right? Because then they come in, they have all their new ideas, you got to figure out how to do it. And they're just trying to figure out their job, right? So they're not really like super supporting you right away because they're just trying to figure out what they have to do. So as you're developing your plan, I know like I said, I heard you say you were hired an arts integrated coach, and that you were looking to like an interventionist, right, as well. And those are helpful to help like relieve some of that pressure from teachers of having to do that work, especially interventionists, right? To have that like specialized, you know, heavy work for a teacher that's what their focus is. But your teachers who are there, like I was thrilled to hear you say, now that I'm done with this like huge report, I'm going to be in the classroom and they're going to need you. Like they're going to need you really bad in that. So I hope like governing board, you put some money towards professional development. And I hope that for you and as you all are developing that academic plan and you're going to hold really high rigorous standards for your academics, that you give the teachers the support they need in order to jump on board, right? To like want to be a part of your plan, but also feel supported in like, I've been like swimming on my own for like so long with no life raft around me, and like give them all the tools that they need in order to like increase all of your everything, right? Your arts and your academic goals as well. It just really stood out to me when I heard that. I was like, oh, your teachers, like your staff, oh my gosh, you know, like good for them. Like I said, it's definitely a testament in resiliency. And I know teachers aren't doing it for the adults, they're doing it for the kids, which always makes it a little bit easier because you have your kids in your classroom and you're going to take care of them. But it's hard. I mean, that's a hard boat for them to have been in or not been in
Right.
for a while. So
Yeah.
as part of your plan, I would hope to see a lot of professional development and support for your teachers.
Yes, and I definitely agree with that statement. And just to throw it out there too, is I rely on them also just as much as they try to rely on me because I'm going, okay, guys, what are you doing in the classroom? Like, I hadn't been here before. What are you guys doing? What did you do before? And I have to get a lot of feedback from them because coming in, it was almost building this school back from the ground up. And so trying to figure out which fire to put out first and, the smoldering ones that are almost out, were kind of like, okay, that needs a finishing touch and that's good. And so it really was just coming in with throwing everything COVID, everything else, and then literally trying to get this foundation back going because it was severely broken.
Yeah.
It was severely, severely broken. So trying to come in with a plan was like, you're pulling 10 ways from Sunday. And it was, for lack of a better term, I didn't want anything done halfways or in that other term that comes along with that. But, it needed to be done right and have that solid foundation there before we could move on. And that started with building the relationships with the staff because they had so much turnover that I came in and they were like, all right, we've got another one. What do you have in place here? What are you going to throw at us now? And so just trying to, bring down that wall and buy into what the staff was really needing and wanting, that had to come first before we started moving on with anything else.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I could just imagine the turbulence that they felt throughout that time. And so it's good that it should be like, you should definitely listen to them, right? Because they're in there doing the work, but I can't think of a greater investment you can make than the teachers. I mean, you can have all the ideas in the world and the governing board, you guys are, you're like so revved up, but if you don't invest in your teachers, you're not going to see the results at the end of the day. I mean, you're just not going to get to where you're wanting to go. And your students are going to be the ones that suffer from that too, right? So please consider that as you start moving forward. And like I said, with that academic plan, like teachers should be a huge part of that as well.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks.
Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you. Ms. Martinez, I'm just surprised at the number of SPED students that you mentioned earlier. A third of your population, 30 plus kids.
Yes.
And I know in the past, that was one of the areas that was an issue with the school, was making sure that IEPs were being met and services were being given to the kids.
Right.
As you're moving forward and we're back and, trying to operate normally, which whatever that means, right?
Right.
How are you ensuring that you're staying on top of that?
So they had big issues prior to my arrival, was just, meeting the deadlines of annual IEPs, making sure accommodations were being met in the classroom, just inclusion hours, things like that. So the IEP piece itself had a lot of corrections that needed to be made to that, which we ensured once I came in, because I went in and did my own internal audit to make sure everything was being done correctly and seeing that. And so that was step one of making sure that that compliance piece was put into place. And then last year, I also had a SPED educational assistant that went around and helped with the inclusion support and making sure those kids were getting the hours online, which was just difficult enough in itself to do it online. And so he would go in and would have breakout rooms with the kids and things like that to be able to provide that inclusion support. This year we don't have the aid, but we instead did the SPED teacher portion. And then we have that program specialist who's more overseeing the IEP process, making sure all those evaluation dates and IEP dates are being met. Whereas now the SPED teachers going around, making sure the inclusion's done, doing pullouts with the kids. They even get some extra help with them whenever they need it. The teachers will be just like, hey, so-and-so wants to come to your room. and work on the assignment in a smaller environment. Is that okay with you? And they allow them to come into a dedicated special ed room that we have. And so, like I said before, we have maybe about 7 or 8 kids that are gifted in that space that's included in with those amount of kids. And then the rest of them are all inclusion kids. So we don't have any low incidence kids that we're having to maintain in a room all day long. They may need more support with the pullouts in the resource room, things like that, but we're making sure those inclusion hours are met with that one individual, or we pull that program specialist who's also a diagnostician to help with some of those inclusion areas that she could help with in that area as well.
Okay.
Hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. I'm glad to hear that you reached out to Region 6 and,
Yes.
and they continue to work with you.
Yes, yes, they are coming in monthly to work with us on that. They came in and just kind of overviewed and audited per se. Our IEPs are ready for this year, and this actually Thursday will be our second monthly meeting that we've had with them. They've helped us last month with the present levels and how to make sure those are in there properly and what that should look like. And then they're going to be focusing on goals and how to write those and make sure they're measurable, things like that for this next month. So, and then January, they're doing the separate training with the general education teachers and helping them with what interventions should look like in the classroom for SPED and making sure documentation's occurring frequently and how all that's working with them. Because I know we have a wide range of staff to where they're either brand spanking new and they're still learning, or we've had them for a long time and they could be retaught some things, or, you know, what the new and improved way of doing things are. And so we have only maybe a couple of teachers that fall in that middle ground there. So I think it was time to bring everybody in to get them all on the same level when it comes to SPED, because it also applies to those that are coming up through MLSS and SAT and things like that too. So we'll be doing that and then continuing the monthly trainings with Region 6 for our SPED and ancillary staff.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo.
Yes, thank you. 2 quick follow-ups. One to what Commissioner Chavez was talking about relative to special ed, because I found that number also very high, a third. I'm wondering, well, when I came on to Santa Fe Public Schools, and I refer to that because it was almost 10 years of my life, holy smokes. We had an inordinately high number of kids identified as needing IEPs relative to other districts our size. And so we really did kind of a serious inventory, if you will, of how these diagnostics were done. Is that something you're doing as well in case children prior to your arrival were misidentified as needing an IEP?
Correct. Yes, that is something that we look at also as they come in and see, you know, a lot of the times these kids were put into resource rooms and they were in there all day long.
Oh my God.
Excuse me. Whereas they did well with inclusion, they just needed that extra support. So their levels increased, you know, coming with us or minimized, I should say. You know, they would go from, you know, level C to a level B or to a level A, rather than being stuck in a resource room all day and just reintegrating them into the classroom. These kids are just kind of like in shock a lot of the times because they're going, I was just stuck in a room all day long, but I get to go out and be with other kids now. And I just needed a little bit of extra support. Or you see these kids that, you know, in the charter school, because they're already getting that extra help and they're in the smaller classrooms, they do a lot better. And so they're able to migrate out of special ed a lot faster than they would in the district schools. And so, you know, they find that courage and that inspiration that they can do a lot of this stuff on their own when they're in a smaller setting, and they get that extra help because the teachers are providing it to all the kids, regardless of whether they're special education or not. And so you do see a lot of the times that, you know, this kid's doing really, really well when they were totally bombing and being a behavior issue and all of that in the other school that they were in. And so a lot of the times you do see those kids graduate out of special education, and it's huge for their self-esteem and all of that once they move out. So
That's
we do
great.
monitor that too.
One last question, and this is for you, Ms. Martinez, and I asked this to the other director earlier. I jotted this down here. What do you want to be better at as your school's director? And what are you doing to work on that?
Everything. I never know it all. And that's one thing I always tell my staff is, you know, I don't want to come out the bat saying I know everything, because I don't. I have to learn every day just along with everybody else does too. And being in SPED for so long, you learn that everything is changing constantly, and you constantly have to be up to date with everything. And, you know, then there's the pandemic, and that throws something at you. So I'm always trying to jump into every conference that I can. It's always better when it's virtual now, just because I can stay at the school at the same time and jump into those virtual learning opportunities. And one thing that I have done for the last few years also is go to the National Charter School Conference, which I find very beneficial every year that I go, because not only do you see what's going on in the state when you do the state conferences, but you get to go see what everybody's doing in the private and public sector on the national level. And you get to make those connections out there and find out what's going on outside of our little state of New Mexico and get great ideas out that way too. So I'm always constantly learning myself and trying to find new ways on how to do things and bring them back to the staff, or, you know, the staff wants to be a part of professional development, go. I'm a big advocate in that. And so I'd like to always research and do different learning opportunities, because it's always changing. You can't stay stagnant in this environment, because education's always changing. Whether it's the kids or the laws or whatever the case may be, you're always having to learn. So I can always improve, always, always, always.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your work.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just thinking, if we rarely see that perfect storm of a brand new head administrator and a whole new board. You know, that's, as you know, unfortunately, you have charter school experience. So coming in as the head administrator, you at least understood what charter schools were about. So often we get brand new head administrators, never been an administrator before, and then add in the fact that you're basically a superintendent. You're not just a charter school administrator. It just adds to the challenge of it. But then when you have a whole new board, that creates, and that team dynamics having to be able to work together. You know, unfortunately, once again, students and staff are the constant that have kept everything together for the school. So I would, you know, I'm just thinking out loud of what we could or should do to offer more support for situations like this. We've talked about, you know, what to do about new head administrators, but the fact that, and appreciate all of the training that is done, but this is really a situation that is very unique. And you've got a board that is here in at least one, probably more, in Cruces that works so well. If we couldn't, you know, get some kind of, you know, mentorship going between the two schools, because, you know, why have to reinvent the wheel all the time? And to be able to just ask in a non-judgment zone the questions that you may have. So we'll work on that. I think that's something that we should be doing to help the schools, because ultimately it's helping the kids in the school, and that's what we're here for. Okay, are we ready for a motion? All right. So I am going to move that the Public Education Commission renew the charter school of Alma de Arte. Alma de Arte Charter High School. I always want to say Arts High School, so I always have to look back. Alma de Arte High School for a 5-year term beginning July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2027, with the condition that based on its analysis, the Charter Schools Division is recommending that prior to contract negotiations, the school submit to the Charter Schools Division a plan outlining how during the remainder of the current contract term and during the next contract. I'm going to stick with this term. We really can't extend to the, oh, I'm sorry, I got it. I got it now. Sorry. During the current contract term, I was thinking it was for the 5 years out. During the current contract term and during the next contract term, the school will improve student growth in both literacy and mathematics. The plan should include implementation of short cycle assessments, use of the data from those assessments to set measurable goals for student growth in literacy and mathematics, implementation of instructional strategies for both core instruction and intervention, and for meeting those goals, and progress monitoring at regular intervals. The plan must include action steps, a timeline, and persons responsible. I'm going to add, the Charter School Division and the Commission must review and approve the plan prior to contract negotiations.
I'll
Second.
Second also.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gibson and a second by, I think it's Commissioner Voight and Chavez. If there's no, I don't see any hands up. If there's no further discussion, roll please.
Commissioner Voight,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt, yes. Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Carrillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0 unanimously, and the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you all. I can breathe now. Get my steps in, for sure. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Commissioners, we will be in recess until 8:30 tomorrow morning in Santa Fe. So safe travels, everyone. Thank you very much.